What's up everyone, welcome to Namjoon TV, this part of the channel where we talk about fish keeping. So today's episode or today's topic is about 10 things you need in setting up a goldfish tank. And since I'm keeping Ranchu goldfish, I might be mentioning some things that are only applicable to Ranchu goldfish and not to some goldfish. So let's begin. Of course, number one is the tank. It can be an aquarium, it could be a pond, and in having your goldfish tank, you must take into consideration the volume of water the tank contains. You can also start with a smaller tank and keep smaller fish, and once they grow a bit bigger, you can transfer them into a bigger tank. And once you have many goldfish in a tank, the tendency is they grow in a slower rate if you overstock them, like this case. This is a 35-gallon tank and I am keeping 10 goldfish in there. So this is advisable, but it couldn't be too critical if this is not their permanent home. So what about the dimensions of the tank? In Ranchus, they do not appreciate a deep tank. So in Ranchu, you only want to keep them in a 12-inch deep pond or tank. One thing I can share to you now is these ranches are very prone to developing the swim bladder disease, and once you keep them in a deep tank, the more chances of that to happen. In ranches, you can keep a wider but shallow tank. So 12-inch for Ranchu, that's equivalent to 1 foot. Number 2, of course, you need to provide them with an efficient filtration system. There are many types of filtration system. We have, in our case, we have this one, the overhead sump filtration system. There is also an Undertank filtration system. You have a Canister filtration system, the Trickle filter, you have the hang-on filter, the sponge filter, and even DIYs. Yes, there are DIY filtration systems that you can make by your own. And I have been practicing this one, that the filtration system must at least be 1/3 of your tank volume. So that means the amount of water that goes into the filtration system must be 1/3 of the volume of the tank. And that's how you get a very efficient filtration for your fish. And having mechanical and biological chambers in your filtration system is also very important. Maybe we'll discuss that on another video, but yes, a filtration system must have a mechanical chamber where the fish poop is trapped, and the biological filtration where the chemistry of making beneficial bacteria and supplying them to your tank happens. Alright, so when we talk about filtration system, we also talk about the submersible pumps that you have to install in your tanks. So other filtration systems don't have the submersible pumps inside the tanks, but this one, I have submersible pumps inside the tank. And one thing to note, that goldfish don't appreciate too much current. That means your submersible pump must not be too strong. So once the water gets back to the tank, the current is not too strong for them to get stressed. Yes, they get stressed when the current is too much for them. So maybe next video we'll talk about how to set up your mechanical filter, your mechanical chamber, and your biological chamber, and what happens on the filter process, or what they call the nitrogen cycle. So number 3 is the aerator or the air pumps. You must have air pumps in your goldfish tank because they provide oxygen. You need more air pumps or air in your aquarium if you're overstocking your aquarium or your tank, because they require more oxygen, so that means you need to provide them more oxygen. And once the water is hot, if you're keeping a tank outdoors and it gets too hot, the oxygen level depletes in the tank and you need to add more oxygen by providing them more aerator. But take note again that goldfish don't appreciate too much current, and very strong aerators may create much current, so still you need to find out what best suits your fish that provides them oxygen at the same time do not create too much current in the tank. So we're down to number 4. In number 4 we're going to talk about the heaters. As you may have read and you may have known that goldfish are cold water fish. They can live in very cold water temperatures, and they can also live in heated tanks. So for me, in keeping goldfish, the heater is optional. Yes, that's optional because they can really live in cold water, these goldfish. But heaters are useful as well in these cases. Number 1 is heaters aids digestion. Yes, when the water is cold, these fish digest their food very slowly, and providing them heater will aid the digestion process and prevents swim bladder disease or bloatedness in the goldfish. Number 2, heaters are useful when treating white spots. Yes, so white spots, or what we call the fish ick, is one of the very common sickness in goldfish, and that is treated with the use of heaters. And also some other sickness and stress in goldfish can be aided with raising the temperature of your tank. So yeah, it's also very useful, but again, you can keep a goldfish tank without a heater, especially if you're keeping them indoors. Number 5, decoration. So talking about decorations, you can actually have decorations in your tank like artificial plants, rocks, driftwoods, and the substrates, the rocks you put on the bottom or the sands you put on the bottom. You can have that, but that's entirely optional. As you can see, I'm keeping my goldfish tank without decorations because I believe, one thing I need to note though, that I believe that you shouldn't keep live plants inside your goldfish tank because they nibble on them, and it won't be too long before all your live plants are gone because they'll be eaten by these pigs, these water piglets that you have in your tank. So again, decorations optional, no live plants. But I also see some of the goldfish keepers that keep their goldfish on live aquariums, and it's okay. But for me, I don't usually advise that. Number 6, light. LED lights are substitute for the sunlight. As much as possible, give your fish sunlight. But if you cannot, especially if you are keeping your tank indoors and sunlight is not available indoors, so you substitute sunlight with LED lights. There are submersible LED lights. Goldfish need light because once they don't have light, you keep them in a dark room, they lose their color. Trust me, they lose their color without lights. But be sure that you have a schedule when to turn on your lights and when to turn them off. Of course, you need to give your goldfish time to rest and sleep. That they need to identify which one is day, turning their lights on, and which part of the day is the night. You know what I mean, right? So give them time to sleep. We're down to number 7, and we're going to talk about water conditioner or the chlorine remover in your tanks. So for me, it is a must-have when keeping a goldfish tank, but it's also optional, especially if you're not using your tap water. Many in the Philippines don't use tap water. They use water from the hand pump, water from deep wells, and that's entirely okay as long as you test your water and there's no ammonia, there's no like that. But once you are using the commercial water, or what is known as the MCWD here in the Philippines, you need to have water conditioner because again, water from those commercial water suppliers have chloramine, or what we also know as simply chlorine, and they are very deadly to your fish. And number 8, aquarium salt. So, should you have aquarium salt? Well, this is my opinion and this is also my experience. Aquarium salt is optional when setting up a tank. I know that many people like to keep a low dose of salt on their aquarium tanks or their goldfish tanks, but I do not. Maybe I'll discuss it on the next videos, but I do not keep even a low dosage of salt in my aquarium. But having an aquarium salt at hand may also be a must, because aquarium salt or salt is also very useful when treating sickness in fish, like stress, like icks, like other types of sickness in fish. Number 1 solution is salt and having salt baths and all. Number 9 is maintenance medicines like Melafix, Primafix, methylene blue. I also have nitrobacta and dimilin powders. They are a must-have because they say it's better to have them and not have the need for them than to need them and don't have them at your hands, right? So you must have at least even a Melafix. So number 10 and the last on our list is knowledge on fish behavior. That's very important. Before you set up a tank, you should need to know what various fish behaviors mean, like when they congregate on the bottom of the tank, or where they always hang on the top of the tank, or they maybe swim sideways, maybe they swim laying on their bellies and all. So all of those are indicators of something else, maybe a sickness, maybe stress. So number 10 you need to have when setting up a goldfish tank is a knowledge on these fish behavior, and that's when you know when to treat your goldfish or when to let it be. So I hope I made sense today and I helped you in your confusions and in your questions on what you need to have or what you need in setting up a goldfish tank. And I also provided information specific for Ranchu goldfish that can also help you in your future endeavors in fish keeping. So once again, this has been John, and this is John TV. For more fish keeping videos, subscribe. Bye bye.